Question number 1. The method of inventory costing in which the direct manufacturing cost and the manufacturing overhead cost, direct manufacturing cost means the direct material and direct labor, and manufacturing overheads, both variable and fixed, are considered as inventoriable cost, is best described as direct costing. No, direct costing only involves direct material, direct labor, and variable overheads. Variable costing same is the sum of direct material, direct labor, and variable overhead. These three costs are considered as inventoriable costs under direct and variable costing. In absorption costing, we take all four. Which one? Direct material, direct labor, variable overheads, and fixed overheads. So that makes C to be the correct option. Why not D? Conversion costing. Conversion costing does not involve direct material. Why? Because conversion costing is equal to direct labor, variable overheads, and fixed overheads. In other words, the cost that is required to convert the raw material into finished good, that's why it's called conversion cost. Which of the following changes would cause a company's break-even point in sales to increase? The company's contribution margin rate increases. We know break-even revenue is equal to fixed cost upon the contribution margin ratio. So if the contribution margin ratio increases, the break-even in dollars would decrease. We are looking for the one that increases. What about B? The company's variable cost per unit decreases. If variable cost per unit decreases, the contribution margin ratio would increase and it will have the same impact. Your break-even revenue will decrease. Not B also. The company's total fixed cost increases. Yes. We know break-even revenue is fixed cost upon the contribution margin ratio. If the fixed cost goes up, that will raise or increase the break-even point in sales. Hence, this is the right option. Why not D? The company's selling price per unit increases. If the selling price per unit increases, that will increase the contribution margin ratio, and that will further increase the denominator, and the break-even point in sales will decrease, not increase. Break-even analysis assumes that over the relevant range, unit revenues are non-linear. Wrong. Unit revenues are considered to be linear. Total revenue is a straight line if you take quantity on the x-axis and revenue and cost on the y-axis. The unit variable costs are unchanged. That is true. Within the relevant range, your variable cost per unit stays the same. That is true. Correct. Total costs are unchanged. That is a debatable point here. Total costs are unchanged. No. This is the total cost function, and when you produce more, this is the fixed part and this is the variable part. So the total cost goes up when you produce more units. So this is incorrect as well. Total fixed costs are non-linear. This is wrong as well. Total fixed cost stays the same in total in the relevant range. So this is linear, not non-linear. Next. Which of the following costing methods provide the added benefit of usefulness for external reporting purposes? Remember, variable costing is not allowed under the IFRS and US GAAP. Only the absorption costing is allowed under the IFRS, under the US GAAP, as well as the financial statement prepared to be submitted to the IRS, Internal Revenue Services. So that makes B to be the correct option. 2 only. Which of the following costing methods will yield the lowest inventory values? Absorption costing involves the direct material, direct labor, variable overheads, and fixed overhead as a part of inventory. These are called inventoriable cost. Same in the hybrid. Hybrid is a system that is the combination of job order costing or process, job or batch. Process costing also involves these 4 costs, but variable costing only takes in direct material, direct labor, and variable overhead. So in this case, the cost will be lowest because it has just got 3 components, not the fixed overhead. So the unit cost will be lowest in D. Which of the following costs are included in product, or they are called inventoriable cost in an absorption costing system? We just discussed direct material, direct labor, variable overhead, fixed overhead. Direct material, yes. Direct labor, yes. Variable overhead, yes. It is missing fixed overheads. Direct labor, direct material, and all overheads, fixed as well as variable. Absolutely right. That's the correct option. Why not C? Direct material, yes. Direct labor, yes. All overhead, yes, but selling expenses, no. Direct material, yes. Direct labor, yes. All overhead, yes. All period expenses, no. Selling, distribution, administration, they are not included as a part of product cost or inventoriable cost. Which of the following cost is deducted from revenues of a manufacturing company in order to determine gross margin, but not deducted from revenues to determine the contribution margin? Gross margin versus the contribution margin. So fixed manufacturing overhead is deducted from this revenue to determine gross margin. This is correct. But fixed manufacturing overhead is not deducted from revenue to determine contribution margin, because for contribution margin you deduct only direct material, direct labor and variable overhead, which is collectively called the variable manufacturing cost. So fixed overhead is not deducted to determine contribution margin, but yes for gross margin. So this is what it was all about. What is deducted to find gross margin but not to find the contribution margin? That is A. Let us discuss the other also. Variable manufacturing is deducted in both cases. Fixed selling is not deducted in both cases. Variable selling and admin, it is also not a part of the gross margin, but for calculating contribution margin, you deduct variable selling and admin expenses. So the right option here is A, deducted under gross margin from fixed manufacturing cost, but not for contribution margin. That makes A to be the correct option. Which of the following statement is correct regarding variable costing and absorption costing income statement for a company that has no beginning inventory and whose production exceeds sales? Remember, this is an important point. Whenever production is more than sales, that means your absorption costing based income would be higher than the variable costing. And conversely speaking, when the sale is more than production, in that case your variable costing profit would be higher than the absorption costing profit. Sometimes you may not have production and sales, so it can be replaced with the closing stock. Whenever the closing stock is more than opening stock, which is same as production being more than sales, this is the case. And whenever the opening stock is more than closing stock, in that case you will find sales to be more than production. Let me explain the idea. Let's say you had 10,000 units in the opening stock and you produce 100,000 units, 110, but you were only able to sell 80, right? That's sales. So that leaves us with 30,000 units, right? In this case, production is 100, sale is 80. So production is 100,000, sale is 80. Production is more than sales, so absorption costing profit will be higher than variable costing. The difference is 20. Now, if you look at this, closing stock is 30, opening stock is 10. The difference between opening and closing stock is also 30. Opening stock being 10, closing stock being 30. The difference is the same, 20. You can apply the same concept here. Whenever the production will be more than sales, closing stock will always be higher than opening stock. And whenever the sale is more than production, in that case, opening stock will be more than closing stock. So in this case, net income is higher if the absorption costing is used and when the production is more than sales. So that makes A to be our correct option. Next. An increase in production levels within the relevant range is most likely to result in increasing in the total cost. Correct. When we produce more, the total cost goes up. That's what we have discussed a little while ago. Correct option. Increasing in the variable cost per unit, this is wrong. Variable cost per unit stays the same. Decreasing the total fixed cost, wrong. Total fixed cost again is a horizontal line. It stays the same in the relevant range. Decreasing the variable cost per unit, wrong. Variable cost per unit, as I just discussed, remains same on per unit basis. So A is the right answer. Which of the following statement is correct regarding the difference between absorption costing and variable costing methods? When production equals sales, absorption costing income is greater than variable costing, wrong. They are same. When production equals sales, absorption costing income is less than variable costing, no. Same. Assuming there is no opening stock in both cases. When production is greater than sales, that means your absorption costing income will be higher than the variable costing. That's what we discussed. And whenever the sale is more than production, in that case, absorption costing profit would be less than variable costing. So this is the perfect description. When production is greater than sales, absorption costing income is greater than the variable costing income. And what about last option? When production is less than sales, absorption costing income is greater. No, it is less than the variable costing income. This is incorrect as well. Huron Industry has recently developed two new products, a cleaning unit for laser discs and a tape duplicator for reproducing home movies taken with a video camera. Cleaning unit and disc duplicator. Tape duplicator. However, Huron has only enough plant capacity to introduce only one of these products. The company controller has gathered the following data to assist management in deciding which product should be selected. Huron's fixed overheads include rent, utilities, equipment depreciation, and supervisory salaries. Selling and administrative expenses are not allocated to products, and rightly so. Selling and admin are not product cost. We have further been given the raw material for both, machining, assembly, variable overheads, fixed overheads, and the total cost for both. Right. Suggested selling price is 169.95 for tape duplicator, 99.98 for cleaning unit, and the actual research and development cost is given, and the proposed advertising and promotion cost. The difference between 99.98, the suggested selling price for Huron laser disc, and its total cost of 88. The difference between these is contribution, gross profit, or residual income. Clearly, this is your selling price, and these are your costs which we discussed. Direct material, this is the direct labor, this is the variable overheads, and this one is the fixed overhead. So when you deduct all these four from selling price, you're talking about the gross profit, so that makes A to be the correct option. Many firms have made significant strides in reducing their inventories. Which of the following would be least likely to encourage managers to reduce inventory? Using variable costing will cause you to reduce your inventory because your performance is judged on variable costing, so increasing inventory won't help. Using throughput costing, in that case you will also lower your inventory. Instituting a charge against budget for managers based on the size of inventory. If there is more inventory, there will be more charge against the manager, so the manager will tend to produce less so as to have lesser stock. Not produce less to sell less, but to produce only what he can sell, so as to minimize the inventory. That will reduce your holding cost also. But in this case, when the firm is evaluating performance of the managers using absorption costing, in this case, the managers will have an incentive to produce more than they can sell. Resultantly, if the performance is evaluated based on absorption costing income will be more than variable costing. In this case, there will be less incentive to produce less. So which of the following would be least likely to encourage managers to reduce inventory? This is least likely. Managers will produce more so as to earn more. Earn means bonuses and commissions and etc. Jago company has two products that use the same manufacturing facilities and cannot be subcontracted. Each product has sufficient orders to utilize the entire manufacturing capacity. For short-run profit maximization, Jago should manufacture the product with low total manufacturing cost for the manufacturing capacity. This is one of the components. We also need the selling price. Sale price of the product must also be considered, not just manufacturing cost. Low total variable cost for manufacturing capacity, again sale price requires consideration. Greater gross profit per hour of manufacturing capacity. Gross profit includes fixed cost that must be removed for decision making in the short run. So this is not the right approach. Yes, greater contribution generated per machine hour. Let's say we have three items A, B, C. A generates contribution of $10, B generates $5, and C generates $3, for example. So this is the contribution generated by ABC, sales minus variable cost. Now we have limited production capacity. A takes 5 hours to produce, B takes 2 hours to produce, and C takes only let's say it takes 3 hours to produce. Now contribution per unit is 10, 5 and 3. In that case we might go for A, but contribution per constraint is 10 by 5, $2 per hour, 5 by 2 that is $2.5 per hour, and 3 by 3 $1 per hour. See, if I have 1 hour, if I use it for A, I get $2 contribution. I use that 1 hour for B, I get 2.5, and in case of C, I get just $1. So my priority would be to channel all my productive resources for B, followed by A, and last priority would be C, because it is giving me the least contribution per hour. Using the variable costing method, which of the following costs are assigned to inventory? Variable selling and administrative costs, it is never made a part of inventory under direct or variable cost or absorption costing. Variable factory overhead, yes, it is a part of inventory under both system, absorption and variable both. So that makes D to be the correct option. Several surveys point out that most managers use full product cost, direct material, direct labor, variable or fixed overhead, including unit fixed cost and unit variable cost, of course, in developing cost-based pricing. Which of the following is least associated with cost-based pricing? Price stability is a factor to consider in cost-based pricing. Price justification also, because we need to set a price that is sufficient enough to cover a fixed cost. Fixed cost recovery, we want to cover our fixed cost, hence the price should be accordingly set. So A, B and D, they are considered in setting the price in cost-based pricing. But target costing is not, because target costing is what the cost should be based upon our target selling price, not what the cost is currently present. So this is right, target pricing. Assumption underlying cost volume profit analysis include all of the following except. All cost can be divided into fixed and variable elements, that is true. Selling price or selling prices are to be unchanged or to be kept constant, that is true. Kept constant, that is true. Volume is the only relevant factor affecting cost, that is true also. A, C, D are true. Total costs are directly proportional to the volume over the relevant range. This is incorrect. Only total variable cost can be directly proportional, not the total cost, because there is fixed cost that doesn't change proportionally with the level of output because it remains the same. Billy Bob Bros are trying to determine how many cars terrarium sets they would have to sell each year to break even. They have determined that the fixed cost would be 5,000 and the variable cost per unit will be 6.5. And they anticipate being able to sell the item at $9 and they are projecting to produce and sell 1,800 sets in the first year. What would be their pre-tax profit or loss for the first year? Now, first of all, you will have to calculate the contribution, and that would be 6.5 minus 9, and that's going to be 9 minus 6.5. The contribution per unit is 2.5, and they are planning to sell 1,800 units. That means the total contribution generated would be 4,500, and this 4,500 contribution will have to cover some of the fixed costs at least, but since not all fixed cost is being covered, still $500 requires to recover. This is the loss basically. Loss of $500, not the whole of fixed cost was covered by the contribution, 500 remained, and this represents the loss. As a part of annual budgeting process, Fair Theatre Company compiled the following information for its next play production: fixed expenses, variable expenses per ticket, ticket price. How many tickets would Fair need to sell for the play in order to obtain a $24,000 profit? So the formula that we use is we need to earn this much profit. We also need to recover this much of fixed cost divided by the unit contribution margin. It's going to be 16 minus 10, 6. This will give you the target quantity that you need to, or target tickets that you need to sell. 24,000 plus 48,000 divided by 6, that gives you 12,000. So you need to sell 12,000 tickets. Only then you will be able to cover the fixed cost and earn the desired profit. State College is using cost volume profit analysis to determine tuition rates for the upcoming school year. Projected costs are given below. Contribution margin per student 1,800, variable expenses per student 1,000, total fixed cost 360. Based on these estimates, what is the approximate break-even point in numbers of students? It's a fairly straightforward question. We need to find out the break-even number of students. It's going to be the fixed cost, which is $360,000, divided by the contribution per student. So 360,000 upon 1,800, that is 200 students. To break even, B is the answer. At the end of the company's first year of operation, 200 units of inventory are on hand. Variable costs are 100 per unit, fixed manufacturing costs are 30 per unit. The use of absorption costing rather than variable costing would result in higher net income of what amount? These 2,000 units in the inventory on hand, they carry with them $30 of fixed costs. So 30 times 2,000, that is $60,000. This is the fixed cost that is embedded in the inventory, in the finished goods, and this is what bypasses your income statement, and this is how the profit might be manipulated, because the fixed costs get lodged into the units of production and it bypasses the income statement, thereby artificially inflating your profits. That makes A to be the correct option. Joe and Bob are planning to open a brick service shop. They have determined that the fixed cost for the shop equipment and other overheads will approximately be 10,000 per month. They have also determined that the average price per brake job will be 525, the average labor cost will be 87, and the parts will average 211. By surveying other shops in the area, they anticipate being able to get an average of 42 brakes job per month. Using the cost volume profit analysis, determine how many brakes jobs per month will be required for Joe and Bob to break even, and the pre-tax profit if they are successful in getting 42 jobs per month. To calculate break even, we need to first find the unit contribution margin, which is 525 less 87 less 211, and if we do 525 less 87 less 211, it gives me 227. And when you divide 10,000 with this number, you get approximately 44.05, which is approximately 44 jobs. So that makes C to be the correct option. Let us do the next part. It says that if you are able to do 42 jobs, what is the profit you will earn? So simply multiply your unit contribution margin 227 with 42. That's the contribution you generate, 9534. And this contribution will hardly be able to cover the fixed cost. There will be something remaining uncovered, that is 466, representing a pre-tax loss. That is the remaining part of this option. C is the right option. Producto Industry had a beginning inventory of 1000 units on January 1st, 20x1, purchased 30,000 units during the year, and sold 28,000 during the year ended December 31st, 20x1. In comparing the net income results related to the use of absorption versus variable costing for the year, which of these options do you think is correct? This question is technically flawed. You should have produced here, then it will make sense. So I'm doing it using the concept that you produced 30,000 units during the period and you sold 28 only. So that means production is more than sales. That would mean your absorption costing profit would be higher than your variable costing. So absorption costing will produce a greater net income than variable costing. And if you think it is the units purchased, then yes, this question is shit. It's wrong. A company is reviewing its financial forecast. The selling price of the company is 22.5. Per unit contribution margin is 12.5. The total fixed cost is 175. How many units of the product must be sold to generate 50,000 profits? A fairly straightforward question. You need to find the target quantity that not only covers your fixed cost, which happens to be $175,000, you will also require to earn 50,000 profit divided by the unit contribution margin, that is 12.5. If you simplify, you need to sell 18,000 units, and that makes C to be the correct option. The following information for a company is given: fixed cost per month, unit selling price, variable cost as a percentage of sales, which means your variable cost is $60, and that would mean your unit contribution margin will be 40% of 100, that is $40. So what amount of annual sales must the company achieve to break even? For that, you need to first find the contribution margin ratio. Contribution margin ratio is $40 upon 100, 40%, or you simply deduct 100 less 60%, 40%. We are looking for the annual sales revenue to break even. For that, you need to take the annual fixed cost, which is going to be 2,500 multiplied by 12, that is $30,000. So your break even revenue should be equal to the fixed cost of $30,000 divided by the contribution margin ratio of 40%. So that will give you $75,000. This should be your annual sales to cover the fixed cost of $30,000 per annum. Waldo Company, which produces only one product, provides its most current month's data as follows: selling price, direct material, direct labor, variable manufacturing cost, variable selling cost. If you just do the computation up to this point, it's going to be 80, the selling price, less 21, 10, 3 and 6 gives you a contribution of $40 per unit. Then we have been given the fixed cost, fixed manufacturing, fixed selling and admin, beginning inventory nil, production 5,000, numbers sold 4,500, ending 500. Makes sense. Based on the above information, what is the total contribution margin for the month under the variable costing? Fairly straightforward. $40 is the unit contribution margin and number of units sold is 4,500. So the contribution earned is 4,500 multiplied by 40. That is $180,000. That should be B. Brule Electronics is developing a new product, surge protectors for high voltage electrical flows. The following cost information relates to the product: direct material, direct labor, and the distribution cost. The company will also be absorbing $120,000 of additional fixed costs associated with this new product that is relevant. A corporate fixed charge of $20,000 currently absorbed by other products will be allocated to this new product. Allocated fixed overheads are ignored because this is not specifically for this product, but this $120,000 of additional fixed cost associated with this new product is relevant, must be taken. How many surge protectors must Brule Electronics sell at a selling price of 14 to increase the after-tax net income of $30,000? By $30,000, Brule Electronics effective income tax rate is 40%. The formula that you should use is to the target quantity that should not only cover the fixed cost but should also generate a $30,000 of after-tax income. After-tax income must be grossed up by dividing it with 1 minus tax rate. That will convert this 30,000 into pre-tax income plus fixed cost divided with the unit contribution margin, which is going to be $14 less this, and this. So this will be $6. That is the unit contribution margin. $14 less 0.75, 4 and 3.25. In the numerator, I will have 30,000 grossed up by dividing with 1 minus tax rate. It is 50 plus 120. That is 170 divided by 6 should give you 28,333, which is approximately D. The expected selling price for a new product is 19. Management's goal is to obtain 20% contribution margin on all sales. 20% margin on all sales means 20% of $19. That will be 3.8. So unit contribution margin is going to be $3.8. Further, if the new product has variable selling and distribution cost of $3, what is the product's target variable manufacturing cost? So how we can proceed? Unit contribution margin is equal to unit selling price minus direct material, direct labor, variable overheads minus variable selling minus variable administration or distribution in this case given. So what we have to find out? We have to find out the direct material, direct labor and variable all combined, what you call the target variable manufacturing cost, the sum of all these. So let us call it X. Unit selling price being 19. Variable selling distribution given as 3. Unit contribution margin is 20% of the selling price, which is 3.8. Make X the subject of the equation, you will get your answer. X is equal to 19 minus 3.8 minus 3 and you get your answer. 12.2 and that is A. At annual sales of $900,000, the EBO product has the following unit sales price and cost details: selling price, prime cost, that is direct material and direct labor, variable manufacturing cost, fixed manufacturing, variable selling and administration, fixed selling and administration, and that's your profit, $2. What is the break-even point in units? What you will do, you will first need to find out what is the total fixed cost, which you can find by multiplying 7 and 3 with the number of units sold. We don't know how many units did we sell. What we can do, take $900,000 and divide it with the $20. This will give you the number of units sold, because $900,000 is the total revenue and $20 is the selling price per unit. So it means you've sold 45,000 units. Fixed manufacturing cost is $7 per unit. Fixed selling and admin is 3, 7, 3, 10. 10 times 45,000. So mean the fixed cost, total fixed cost, fixed manufacturing, fixed selling and admin is 450. and you need to divide it with the unit contribution margin. How you can do that? 20 is the selling price less direct material, direct labor, that's the prime cost, less manufacturing variable, less selling and admin variable. So it's going to be 20 less 6 less 1, and 1 gives you $12. Simply divide 450,000, the total fixed cost, with 12 should give you the break-even quantity. That is 37,500. That makes C to be the correct option. Multi-company has the following sales mix: shoe, swimsuits and hats sold at these prices, variable cost, these fixed cost, and the proportion of sales. 30% of the units we sell are shoes, swimsuits 50%, hats 20%. What amount is Multico weighted average contribution margin per unit? First, you need to find the contribution here. That's $75, $40, and $35. Multiply each contribution margin with the relevant percentage and add the results. $75 times 30, $40 times 50%, and $35 times 20%. This is $35 times 20%. That gives you 49.5. This is what you call the weighted average unit contribution margin per unit. That matches with the option B. Norval Creation wants to achieve an after-tax profit of $45,000 for the year ended December 31st. The company sells its product for $35 per unit and has a contribution margin ratio of 15%. And the company's fixed cost currently is $150,000 and its tax rate is 25%. How many units must Norval sell to achieve the after-tax profit objective? So you know the formula, the target quantity that we should sell, so that we not only cover the fixed cost, but we also earn an after-tax profit of $45,000, which must be grossed up by dividing it with 1 minus tax rate, and then dividing the numerator with the unit contribution margin, which can be calculated by multiplying the unit contribution margin ratio 15% with the selling price. 35% 15%, that is 5.25. And now just simplify the results. 45,000 upon 75% plus 150 gives you a numerator of 210 divided with 5.25. 40. If you sell 40,000 units, you will not only be able to cover the fixed cost but also generate 45,000 of after-tax profit. That makes C to be correct option. Almo developed its business plan based on the assumption that canopies would sell at a price of $400 each, selling price. The variable cost for each canopy were projected at $200. The annual fixed costs $100,000. Almo's after-tax profit objective is $240. The company's effective tax rate is 40%. If no change is expected or no changes are made to the selling price or the cost structure, determine the number of units Almo company must sell to achieve the after-tax profit objective. Pretty much same as what we have done earlier. Target quantity is equal to the fixed cost that we should cover, which is $100,000. After-tax profit is $240, must be grossed up by dividing it with 1 minus tax rate, which in this case is 40%, and then divide the numerator with the unit contribution margin, which is 400 less 200, just $200. So I'm going to simplify the numerator first. 240,000 divided by 1 minus 40%, that is 60%, 400 plus 100,000. So the numerator is $500,000 divided by 200 gives you 2,500 units. If you sell 2,500 units, you cover the fixed cost as well as earn an after-tax profit of $240. B is the answer. A 20% target contribution margin is set for duct, which is new product, with the following unit cost: manufacturing cost variable, manufacturing cost fixed, variable selling and admin 3, variables fixed 5. What is duct's target selling price? Now this is interesting. We have $12 variable cost of production, $3 variable cost of selling and admin, so the total variable cost is $15. Our contribution margin ratio is 20%, which means our variable cost percentage must be 80% of sales, which is $15. So 80% of your selling price is equal to your variable cost, which is 15. If you make selling price as a subject of this equation, you can find your selling price. $15 divided by 80%, 15 divided by 80 will give you 18.75. That is your selling price, option B. A company's target gross margin is 40% of the selling price of a product that cost 89 per unit. The product selling price should be, I gave you an idea a little while ago, CSP. You want your profit to be 40% of the sale. Sale must be 100, then the cost must be 60. If the cost is actually $89, what should the selling price be? Quickest way to do it, 60x is equal to 89 into 100, and x is equal to 89 100 divided by 60, that is 148.33. That is C. This is very helpful. Please note it down. C. Company's management would like to calculate the break-even point in sales dollar of its loan product, the farm combine planter. The following cost information is available: selling price, variable manufacturing cost per unit, other variable costs. So that means your unit contribution margin is $100. Your fixed manufacturing and fixed marketing cost is $7,000. What amount the company is expected to break even in sales dollar? Let us just do it in the conventional way. Break even quantity is equal to the fixed cost 15 plus 7, $22,000 divided by 100, which means if you sell 220 units, you will break even. If the selling price is 1,000 each, 220 units are to be sold to break even, so it means the revenue must be $220,000. That is D. D is the right option. There is another way to do it. For that, you need to first find the contribution margin ratio. What is contribution margin ratio? It is simply the contribution per unit, 100 upon the selling price, 100 by 1,000 multiplied by 100, so it's just simply 10%. So we can find the break-even dollars or break-even revenue directly by dividing your fixed costs with the contribution margin ratio. So you get 220,000 straight away. Whichever method you want to use, you get your answer 220. The following information data pertains to a manufacturing company: total sales, total variable cost, total fixed cost. The contribution here is 60, and this contribution is what percentage of sales? 60 by 80, it is 75%. So your contribution margin ratio is 75%, fixed cost is 30. What is the break-even level in sales dollar? Break-even level in sales dollar is equal to your fixed cost divided by contribution margin ratio, which you've just calculated. So 30,000 divided by 0.75 gives you $40,000. This is the sales revenue at which you will break even, and that is option B. The following information is taken from Wampler Companies Year 1 contribution income statement: sales, contribution margin, fixed cost, and income taxes. What was the Wampler's margin of safety? Margin of safety is equal to the difference between the budgeted sales or the current sales right now minus the break-even sales. We don't have the break-even sales revenue, but we can find break-even sales revenue is equal to your fixed cost, which is 90,000, divided by the contribution margin ratio, which is 120 upon $200,000. The contribution margin ratio comes out to be 60%. So dividing your break-even revenue with your contribution margin ratio, which is 150, this is the break-even revenue, break-even sales. So current sales minus break-even sales gives you the margin of safety, which in this case is $50,000, matches with option A. Black's company break-even point is $780,000 in revenue. Variable expenses average 60% of sales, which means your contribution margin ratio would be 100 less 60, 40%. And the margin of safety was 130. What was Blake's contribution margin? Formula to calculate break-even revenue is equal to the fixed cost, which is not given, the contribution margin ratio, which is given. Break-even revenue is given 780. So 780 is equal to fixed cost upon 40%, which means fixed cost is equal to 40% of 780. 780 multiplied by 40%, that is 312. So your fixed cost was 312. This is what you have generated, the contribution to cover the fixed cost. So 312 is the contribution generated to cover the fixed cost, but there was a margin of safety 130. 60% of this was your variable cost and 40% of this is your contribution. So 130 multiplied by 40%, that gives you 52. So you generated $312 contribution to cover the fixed cost, and additional $52,000 contribution to generate a margin of safety of 130. The combined contribution generated is 312 plus 52, which is 364. That is your option A. Okay, next question is question number 38. Schneider Company manufactures fan with the direct material cost of $10, direct labor cost of $7. All local carrier charges Schneider $5 per unit to make deliveries. That's the shipping cost. Sales commissions are paid at 10% of the selling price. Fans are sold at $100. Indirect factory cost and administrative cost are $6,800 and $3,700 per month fixed. How many fans must Schneider produce to break even? Now we know what to do. We need to first find the unit contribution margin, which is equal to selling price less direct material, less labor, less shipping cost, and less the commission, which is 10% of the selling price, which is 10%, 10. So if you net all these off, you get the unit contribution margin. So it's going to be 100 less 10 less 7 less 5 less 10, $68. So if you want to find the break-even quantity, divide the fixed cost, which is 6,800 plus 37,200 with 68. So 6,800 plus 37,200 divided by 68 gives you 647.05, which is approximately 648. That makes B to be the correct option. Product cost has sales of $200,000, contribution margin of 20%, the margin of safety $80,000. What is COT's fixed cost? We know margin of safety is the sales, planned sales, or these actual sales, or these sales attained, less the break-even sales, which we don't have. We don't have break-even sales. So we have margin of safety 80, 200. That will give us the break-even sales dollar. Netting this off gives you 120. Break-even sales is 120. And we know how do we calculate the break-even revenue. Break-even revenue is equal to fixed cost divided by the contribution margin ratio, and you have everything what you need. Fixed cost is to be calculated. Contribution margin ratio is 20%, and we have just calculated break-even revenue. So fixed cost will be simply 20% of this number, which is going to be 24,000. That's B. Based on potential sales of 500 units per year, a new product has estimated traceable cost of $990. That's the fixed cost. What is the target price to obtain 15% margin on sales? So if 15% is the profit margin on sales, that means 85% would be 990. So 85% of your revenue is 990, right? So 990, which is 85% of your revenue, if you divide it with the 85%, that will give you the total 1.164 million. This would be the total revenue. This is the total revenue generated. Now, if this is the total revenue generated of 500 units, then if you divide this with 500, this will give you the unit selling price, which come close to option A, 2329. Next, a delivery company is implementing a system to compare the cost of purchasing and operating different vehicles in its fleet. Truck 415 is driven these many miles per year at a variable cost of 0.13 per mile. And this truck has a capacity of 28,000 pounds and deliveries of 250 full loads per year. What amount is the truck's delivery cost per pound? So first of all, we will have to calculate the cost, which is going to be 125 miles per year with the cost of 0.13 per miles driven. This will give you the total cost, and you need to divide it with the total quantity of pounds shipped in 1 year. It has a capacity of 28,000 pounds and there are 250 full loads per year, which means the total pounds shipped 28,000 multiplied by 250. If you do the computation, you'll get quite a small number, 0.002321428, and that is perfectly matching with your option B. Selected information concerning the operations of a company for the year ended December 31st is as follows. First, look for the requirement. What was company's finished goods inventory cost at December 31st under the variable costing? We know the inventoriable costs under the variable costing is simply the direct material, direct labor, and variable factory overhead. If you add all these and divide it with the number of units produced, that will give you the unit cost. Divide it with 20,000. So $80,000 plus 40 plus 24 divided by 20,000 units gives you a unit cost of $7.2. How many units do we have in the closing stock? 20,000 produced, 18,000 sold. So we have 2,000 in our inventory to be valued at the rate of 7.2 per unit. So it's going to be 14,400. Look for the option and it is D. BCA Corp had an inventory at the beginning of the period as 1,000 radios with a total value of 40. That's $4 per unit. During the period, BCA produced an additional 40,000 radios. The direct cost of direct material, direct labor, and variable overhead is $1.28 million. The fixed overhead was $750,000. During the period, BCA sold 37,000 radios for a total of $2.479. What is the BCA's operating income if the variable cost is used to assign cost to the products? So what you're going to do under the variable costing or direct costing, opening stock 40,000. The cost of production under the variable cost, that is the direct material, direct labor, and variable overhead, 1.28 million, write it as 1 to 80,000. So the total is going to be 1.320 million for how many units? 1,000 and 40,000, 41,000. So if you divide this number by 41,000, you will get your unit cost 1.32 million divided by 41,000. The unit cost comes out to be 32.195, 1 to 195, so on. So if this is so, we have closing stock that needs to be deducted from here to find the contribution margin. We had 1,000 units in the opening, 40,000 produced, 41. Out of this, 37,000 sold. So we have 4,000 units remaining to be valued at this price multiplied by 4,000. The closing stock which needs to be deducted from this number is 128,780. And if we do, what you get is 1191,219.5, which is approximately 220. This is your contribution from this contribution earned, and from this we need to deduct the total fixed cost, which is 750 fixed cost. That will give you the income under the variable costing. Is going to be 537,780, and that perfectly matches with your option B. Caterpillar Company is a manufacturer of industrial components. One of their products that is used as a subcomponent into auto manufacturing is KB96. This is the detail. This product has the following financial structure per unit. What are we required to do? During the next year, sales are expected to be 10,000 units. All the costs will remain the same except for fixed manufacturing overhead, which will increase by 20%, and material, which will increase by 10%. The selling price per unit for the next year is going to be 160. Based on these data elements, the contribution margin from KB96 for the next year will be for the next year. So what we are going to do, we just need to calculate the contribution. We just need to lower your material cost needs to be increased, and the fixed manufacturing cost, which is not relevant here, will increase by 20% also. So let us do our computation. Material is going to increase by 10%. That means it's going to be now 22. Labor stays the same. Variable overhead stays the same. Shipping and handling stays the same. So it's 15, 12, and 3. And your selling price is now going to be 160. So 160 less 22, less 15, less 12, less 3. That's the contribution, 108. And if you are expecting to sell 10,000 units, so that means your contribution is going to be 1.08 million, and that makes C to be the correct option. Brewster Company has the following financial information: fixed cost, variable cost as a percentage given 60%, which is going to be 60% of $50, that is $30, and that would mean your unit contribution margin is 50 less 30, $20. This is important information. What amount of sales is required to Brewster to achieve a 15% return on sales? And from this information we can also extract CMR, because if the variable cost is 60%, that would mean the contribution margin ratio is 40%. So we need sales dollar that will not only cover your fixed cost but also generate a return of 15% on sales and divide it with the contribution margin ratio, which is 40%. Our sale, which let's call it, it's S, is S. Our profit then has to be 15% of sales, right? So our sales is S, 20,000 fixed cost, 15% of S, that is 0.15 S upon 40%, which basically is 0.40. And if you take this on the other side, you have 0.4 S is equal to 20,000 plus 0.15 S. If you make S the subject of this equation, it's going to be 0.4 less 0.15, 0.25. So it's going to be 20,000 upon 0.25, and that will give you $80,000, and that is your option C. Delphi Company has developed a new product that will be marketed for the first time during the next fiscal year. Although the marketing department estimates that 35,000 units could be sold at 36 per unit, Delphi management has allocated only enough manufacturing capacity to produce a maximum of 25,000 units of the new product annually. The fixed costs associated with the new product are budgeted to be $450,000 for the year, which includes $60,000 for the depreciation on new manufacturing equipment, and it is perfectly right to keep this depreciation there. It's a relevant cost for this specific situation. Data associated with each of the unit product are presented below. Delphi is subject to 40% income tax rate. What we have been given: material, labor, manufacturing overhead, selling $16. This is the total variable cost. Delphi management has put a condition that it will not approve the continued manufacture of the new product after the next fiscal year unless the profit after tax is at least $75,000 the first year. The unit selling price to achieve this target profit must be at least. Amazing question. So we need to set a selling price sufficient enough not only to earn this much after tax profit, but also cover your fixed costs. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use this formula. The target quantity sufficient enough not only to cover your fixed cost of $450, but also generate a net income of $75,000, 1 upon tax rate, divided by the unit contribution margin, which we can only calculate if we have the selling price. So we can write simply as sales minus the variable cost, which is 16. Now we plug in whatever we have, total quantity that we can sell. A max is 25,000 units. Look at this. We can only produce and sell a maximum of 25,000 units. So what you're going to do, make an equation. 25,000 is equal to S minus 16. In the numerator we have 450,000 plus 75,000. If grossed up, it's 125. So let us simplify now. It's going to be 125 plus 450, 575. So 25,000 is S minus 16, 575, or S minus 16 is equal to 575,000 divided by 25,000. That is 23. S minus 16 is equal to 23. That means S is equal to $39. That should be the price that will do it for you. D. Same question, but this time the maximum after-tax profit that can be earned by Delphi from the sales of the new product during the next year. Since the selling price is $36, as you can see here, so our unit contribution margin will be 36 less 16, $20. How many units can we sell? Max. We can sell a max of 25,000, which means our contribution would be 25,000 units times 20, $500,000. From this $500,000, you need to deduct your fixed cost of $450, which means your operating income will be $50,000. What exactly are we looking for? After tax profit. So deduct tax at the rate of 40%. Tax on this would be 40% of 50,000, 20. So 50 less 20 will give you a net 30. That perfectly matches with your option A. Trendy company produced and sold 30,000 backpacks during the last year at an average price of 25. Variable manufacturing cost, that includes material, labor and overheads, variable selling 6. 15 is the total variable cost. That means the unit contribution margin is 15 and 25's difference, that is $10. Total fixed cost 250. There was no year-end work in process inventory. If the Trendy had spent an additional 15,000 on advertising, then sales would have increased by $30,000. If Trendy had made this investment, what change would have occurred in Trendy's pre-tax profit? Let us consider our profit when there is no advertisement. We generate a contribution of $10. When we sell 30,000 backpacks, our contribution is going to be $300,000, and from this we deduct our fixed cost. Our operating profit turns out to be $50. Now let us bring in the other picture. Had we spent $15,000 on advertisement, our sales would have gone up by $30,000. Let us see how many units does it make. 30,000 upon 25, that means 1200 units. These 1200 units of extra sales would have generated a contribution of $12,000 for us against an advertisement expense of 15. So had we done the advertisement, our cost would have been 15, the contribution 12, so we would have resulted in a 3,000 reduction in our operating profit. 47 would have been the new number, which means 3,000 decrease. That makes C to be the correct option. Spark buys cordless phones for $125 each and sells them for $200. So you can see the contribution here is $75. Spark pays sales commission $25 per phone. We need to bring this in picture as well. So contribution falls to just $50 because sales commission is a variable expense. Fixed cost is 3,000. Assuming Spark desires a profit of 10% of sales, how many units must Spark sell? So if you want to sell the quantity Q, you need to cover your fixed cost of 3,000. Unit contribution margin is 50, and your profit that you're looking for is 10% of your sales. 10% of your sale. What your sale is going to be? Q is the quantity sold. 200 is the selling price. So it's going to be 200 Q. That's your sales. 200 Q is your sales revenue. 10% of this is the desired profit. Just solve it for Q. So 50 Q, if you simplify, 50 Q is equal to 3,000 plus 10% of 200 Q is going to be 20 Q. Make Q the subject, you will get 30 Q is equal to 3,000, and that makes Q is equal to 3,000 by 30. That is 100. Q is 100. D. Which of the following labor costs for a manufacturing company is deducted from revenues in order to determine the gross margin, but not deducted from the revenue to determine the contribution margin? Manufacturing floor salary, this is something that is a part of your fixed overheads, and it is deducted to calculate your gross profit, but it is not deducted from your revenues to determine the gross profit, your contribution margin. So look no further, this is the right option. Hourly assembly workers' wage, that is deducted both for gross profit as well as for contribution. Office manager salary, it is deducted neither in gross margin nor in contribution margin. And salesperson commission, it is deducted to determine the contribution margin but not the gross margin. So we are sure we got the right option. A is the correct option. Wren Company manufactures and sells two products with the selling prices and variable costs are given as follows. Selling prices and the variable cost that can be used to calculate your unit contribution margin. For both A and B, it is going to be $6 for A and $8 for B. Wren's total annual fixed cost is $38,400. Wren sells 4 units of A for every 1 unit of B. A, B, 4 A's, 1 B's. So the sales mix is going to be 80% and 20%. That is the 4 to 1. Okay, now we need to find the weighted average unit contribution margin. The contribution for A is $6. Contribution of B is $8. So take 80% of 6. and 20% of 8 and add the result. That gives you $6.4 as your weighted average unit contribution margin. If operating income last year was 28,800 and this was the fixed cost, what was the number of units sold? So the quantity sold would have covered your fixed cost. It has generated this much income also, and each unit contributing, each weighted average unit contributing 6.4. So add these up, 38,400 plus 28,800 and divide it with 6.4. That gives you a total of 10,500. So you would have sold 10,500 units of both A and B. That's the answer, but let us just make some good sense out of it. Let's say if you were required to calculate how many A's did we sell, B did we sell last year. So just simply take 80% of this number. This will give you the quantity of A sold, and 20% of this number, and that will give you the quantity of B sold last year. That's not required. We were just required to find the total units, and that's D. At start of this, a company anticipated producing 300,000 units. Throughout the year, the annual budgeted manufacturing overhead was 150 variable and 600,000 fixed. In April, when there was a beginning inventory for the finished goods of 5,000 units, the company showed an income of $40,000 using absorption costing. That same month, the ending inventory for the finished good was 7,000 units. What amount would the company recognize as income for April using the variable costing? We discussed whenever the production is more than sales, absorption costing income will be higher than the variable costing income. Or in other words, whenever the closing stock is more than opening stock by same numbers, your absorption costing will be higher than the variable costing. What you see here is that we had 5,000 units in the opening stock, 7,000 in the closing stock. So clearly your opening stock is higher than your closing stock is higher than opening stock by 2,000 units. And each of these units carry a part of fixed overhead. And what part? Let us calculate. Fixed cost was $600,000 at a planned output level of 300,000 units. That means each unit contains $2 fixed cost. If there are 2,000 units in the closing stock, more than opening stock, multiply this with the fixed overhead rate per unit. That means your absorption costing profit is 4,000 higher than variable costing profit. If absorption costing profit is 40, then variable must be 4,000 less. That makes B to be the correct option. A company sells DVD players for 200 per unit. The players have a unit variable cost of 160. That means contribution is 40. Write it down if there is no other information. Unit contribution margin is $40. The company estimates that it will sell one home entertainment system for every 4 DVD of players. That's the sales mix. Home entertainment systems have a unit variable cost of 460, selling price of 600. Okay, mark this up also and calculate the contribution for this item also. This is going to be $140. Now we have two items. DVD player, that has a unit contribution margin of $40. And the second one is the home entertainment system, that has a unit contribution margin of $140. Now, the fixed cost is 90, and it further says the company estimates it will sell one home entertainment system for every 4 DVDs. One for every 4, that is the same 20% and 80%. Use these and calculate the weighted average contribution margin per unit. 80% of 40 plus 20% of 140 gives you a weighted average unit contribution margin of 60. It says, assuming that the sales mix remains the same, how many DVD players need to be sold for the company to break even? Let us first find the break even quantity of total units. 90,000 divided by 60. 90,000 divided by 60 gives you 1,500. So you need to sell a total of 1,500 of both of these items, out of which 80% would represent DVD units and 20% would represent home entertainment systems. So take 1,500's 20% gives you 300 home entertainment systems, and the remaining 1,500 less 300, or just 80% of 1,500 will give you 1,200. So what exactly are we required to do? How many DVDs players? DVD players 1,200. C. Green Company produces only product Z as a part of the annual budgeting. Green is considering whether to produce a new product Green's CFO obtained information from various departments within the company. The plant manager experienced the following cost would be incurred in producing the new product: material, labor per hour, and you have got the fixed cost. The marketing manager decided to spend $2 per unit for first 5,000 units items sold with no additional cost after that. The marketing manager confirmed that the current market price for the new product was $4,000 per 1,000 units, that is $4 per unit. The plant manager told CFO that the employees would be able to produce 500 units per hour. Approximately how many units would Green would have to sell to break even? Okay, so we need to find the break-even quantity, and we know break-even quantity is equal to fixed cost, which is going to be 55,000 plus, don't forget the marketing, $2 per unit times 5,000, that is 10,000. So this is your total fixed cost you need to cover. What is the unit contribution margin? For this you need to take the selling price, that is $4,000 per 1,000, so that's basically $4 per unit. From this you need to deduct your variable cost, direct material $1, and further look at this. Direct labor cost has been given on per hour basis. Direct labor cost is $100 per hour. How many units are you going to produce in 1 hour? 500 units. So if you divide $100, the labor cost, with the number of units produced in 1 hour, that will give you the direct labor cost per unit, and it's going to be 0.2. Now if you simplify this, you'll get your answer, and it's going to be 23215. That perfectly matches with your option B. A company that produces 10,000 units has a fixed cost of $300,000, variable cost of 50 per unit, sales price is 85 per unit. So you can see here we have got the unit contribution margin, which is going to be 35, but I think there's some more information. After learning that its variable cost will increase by 20%, the company is considering an increase in production to 12,000 units from 10. Which of the following statements is correct regarding the company's next step? Right now our contribution is 50, 85 difference, that is $35. But when the variable cost goes up by 20%, so in that case $50 variable cost will jump to $60, so contribution will fall from 35 to 25. So basically your contribution will fall from 35 to 25, that is $10 decrease, and in that case this would result in 10,000 multiplied by the 10,000 units sold right now. You are going to lose $100,000. If the production remains at 10,000 units, profits will decrease by $100,000. If the production remains at 10,000 units, the profit will decrease by 50. No, it will decrease by $100,000. If the production is increased to 12, the profit will increase by $100,000. This is wrong as well. If you calculate, you will see that the profit will reduce to 0, and so on. So we know for sure that this is the right option. Ace company is evaluating a new novelty product that will sell for 30. Variable cost is 20. Variable selling is 4. And if you net these off, what you get is $6 as your unit contribution margin. 30 less 20 less 4. Fixed manufacturing cost is this much. Product design and development cost is 80. The product is expected to have a market life of 1 year, at the end of which all production and sales would discontinue. Ace has a target rate of return on 10% of sales, that is 0.10. How many units must Ace sell to earn the target rate of return? Do the same thing. Q is equal to the fixed cost, which in this case is 180. We want to sell Q quantity at $30 each, and we want 10% of this. This is my revenue. 30Q is my revenue. $30 selling price, Q is the quantity. And I want 10% of this as my profit, divided with the unit contribution margin, which is $6. Simplify this for Q, you get your answer. 6Q is equal to 180 plus 10% 33Q, which in net gives you 3Q is equal to 180, and you divide 180 with 3, you get 60,000 units. So if you sell 60,000 units, you're going to get 10% of the sales as your profit. Johnson Company, distributor of candles, has reported the following budget assumption for year 1. No change in candles inventory level. Cash disbursements to candles manufacturers $300,000. Target accounts payable is 150% of accounts payable, beginning balance, and the sales price is set at markup of 20% of candle's purchase price. The candle manufacturer is Johnson's only vendor, and all purchases are made on credit. The accounts payable has a balance of $100,000 at the start of the year. What is the budgeted gross margin for the year? Well, just drop your vendor's account. You have the opening balance of $100,000, and it says your closing balance is going to be 150% of the opening balance. So clearly it's going to be 150. The payment is going to be $300,000. That would mean the balancing figure would be for the goods purchase, and the balancing figure clearly is $350,000. Now, if this is the purchase, then it can help us to find the cost of goods sold, which is equal to opening stock plus purchase minus closing stock. Since both of these are nil, so your purchase is your CGS. So purchase is your CGS. Now this can help us find your gross profit directly. It says the gross profit is given in the form of markup, 20% of the purchase price. So 20% of $350,000 is going to be $70,000. This is your gross profit, and that perfectly matches with the option B. The information related to the revenue and cost of a product are as follows: fixed cost, desired net income per month, selling price, variable cost per unit. So that is $5. That's the unit contribution margin. What number of units above the break-even level must be sold to earn the desired level of net income per month? So you need to first find what is the break-even quantity. That is the total fixed cost divided by the unit contribution margin, 3600 divided by 5, that gives you 720. So basically 720 is your break-even level of sales, right? Now, we need to find out that quantity that not only covers your fixed cost, but also generates 480 of profit, right? And unit contribution margin is 5. So 3600 plus 480 divided by 5, that is 816. So the difference between 720 and 816 is 96. That's the quantity you need to sell over and above your break-even point. You can do it directly if you would like to, a quick shortcut. That's your desired income over and above the break-even. So if 480 is the desired income and each unit is generating $5 of unit contribution margin, you can find this to be direct answer 480 divided by 5. So I've just elaborated to an extent that is more easily understandable. You got your answer, B. A ceramic manufacturer sold cups last year for 7.5 each. Variable costs of manufacturing were 2.25. The company needed to sell these many units to break even. Net income was 5040. This year the company expects to follow some changes. Sale price per cup is going to be 9. Variable cost is going to increase by 33.3. Fixed cost will go up by 10%, and the income tax rate will remain the same at 40%. Sales in the coming year are expected to exceed last year's sales by 1,000 units. How many units does the company expect to sell this year? We need to first focus on the last year when the sale price was 7.5, variable cost was 2.25. So 7.5 less 2.25 gave you a unit contribution margin last year. UCM, unit contribution margin, was 5.25. Right? Last year we were able to generate this much income by selling 20,000 units. These two pieces of information will help us find the fixed cost. Without fixed cost, we can't do for the current year, right? So what you're going to do, break-even quantity is equal to fixed cost upon unit contribution margin 5.25. Break-even quantity is given as 20,000. So 20,000 multiplied by 5.25 gives you the fixed cost last year, which is $105,000. Now we can also find out the quantity sold last year, because if 20,000 is a break-even quantity, we generated 5040 as our net income last year. And if we gross it up by dividing it with 1 minus 40%, 4050 divided by 60%, that is 8400. each unit generating a contribution of 5.25 means we would have sold 1600 units above the break-even point. So the total quantity sold last period was 21,600. 20,000 to break even and 1600 units that have generated you after tax income of 5040. Now what will happen this year? The selling price is going to go up to $9. Your variable cost is going to go up by 33.33%, that is 2.25. If increased by this percentage, is going to be $3. Your new unit contribution margin is going to be $6. Your new fixed cost is going to be higher by 10%. So 105,000, if increased by 10%, it will be 115,500. Right? Remember, 105 was the fixed cost last year, which is going to go up by 10%, 115,500. Now, how many units does the company expect to sell this year if the sale is going to go up by 1,000? Last year sale quantity was 21,600. It's going to go up by 1,000, so which means our new sales level will be 22,600. That makes D to be the correct option. In fact, none of this information was required to solve any other thing. So just we got our answer what we needed. Otherwise, well, it could have been made even more complex. Next, a company produces and sells two products. The first product accounts for 75% of sales and the second product accounts for the remaining 25% of sales. The first product has a selling price of 10, variable cost of 6, allocated fixed cost of 100,000. The second product has a selling price of 25, variable cost of 13, allocated fixed cost of 212. At the break-even point, what the number of units of the first product will have to be. So it's better to lay it down in the form of the first product and the second product. Selling price for the first product is $10. For the second product, it's $25. Variable cost for the first product is $6. For the second product is $13. That will help us calculate the unit contribution margin for first item to be $4. For second, it's going to be $7 and $5, $12. Your first product accounts for 75% of your sales. Second one accounts for 25%. So if you calculate the weighted average unit contribution margin, 75% of 4 is going to be 3. 25% of 12 is going to be 3 as well. So your weighted average unit contribution margin is 6. Your fixed cost in total is 100 plus 212, 312. 312 divided by 6 gives you a total units to be sold to break even is 52, out of which 75% represents your item 1, and that's what we need. 39. B is the answer. Lin Manufacturing Company prepares income statement using both the standard absorption and standard variable costing method. For year 2, unit standard costs were unchanged from year 1. In year 2, the only beginning and ending inventories were finished goods 50,000 units, 5,000. How would Lin's ratio using absorption costing compare with those using the variable costing? Okay, now this is an interesting question. We know the current ratio is the ratio of current assets to current liabilities, and in absorption costing, we have fixed costs as a part of inventory, which means inventory under absorption costing would be higher because it carries fixed costs. Resultantly, the current ratio would be greater under absorption than under variable costing. But look at the stockholders' equity point of view. We know the profit affects stockholders' equity because of the inventory figure. Since opening close stock and closing stock is the same, the prior period fixed cost which was included in the closing stock would have been expensed in the current year. And whenever inventory shrinks from the previous period, the fixed costs get expensed under absorption costing. This will result in lower net income. This lower net income will reduce the stockholders' equity compared to the equity under the variable costing. So that makes D to be the correct option. This is a little twisted question. You just have to focus on what I've just said. Redo, reinterpret with some numbers, and you will see D is the right answer. This is your last question. We have 3 products A, B, and C with the unit selling prices and the variable cost given. This will help us calculate the contribution for each unit. 70 less 42. So unit contribution margin for item A is going to be 28. Item B 22. And item C 28. Again, a customer of Blue is going to spend a total of 40,000 on one product only. Which of the following product would Blue prefer to sell to the customer, the one that generates the highest contribution, that is either A or C, that is D.